because stats, it's variable depending on who you're fighting. Like you take Charles Oliveira's stats, and then you say his fight with Islam Makhachev, and you say, okay, well, where's the stats? Like it's really dependent upon skill sets, who's your level of competition, who you're competing with. You know what I mean?
That was a quick submission, though. The stats are one submission to one submission.
Bro, he's got a crushing squeeze.
It's different, bro. It's different. Yeah, he strangled me. And the way he did it, I think he Moicano filled in last minute to fight Islam and got caught with the same choke.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a Darce choke, but he locks it on his forearm.
Yeah.
He doesn't go to the bicep.
I know.
And the squeeze is different. He's pulling to his chest. It's not like a angle squeeze. It's different. So the defense is different. When I got my legs out and tried to walk around, he hooked my leg, but like the squeeze is completely different. Completely different.
As UFC 330 approaches, all eyes are once again focused on Islam Makhachev. The lightweight king is preparing for one of the most important fights of his career as he moves up to face Ian Machado Garry, and the stakes could not be any higher. A victory would not only strengthen Islam's legacy as one of the greatest fighters of his generation, but it would also move him one step closer to making UFC history.
Islam Makhachev. Dude goes up one weight class, goes up to 170. He was the 55-pound most dominant champion ever, most title defenses at 55 ever. Just dominates at 170. Like, every round. People are saying it's boring, but listen, man, it's boring if you're a casual. The fact that he was able to do it every round, it was a little frustrating because you wanted Jack to try to adjust, but he couldn't, man. Islam shut his game down right away.
What has made headlines recently is the return of Khabib Nurmagomedov to Islam's training camp. Whenever Khabib becomes involved in a fight camp, fans immediately pay attention. The former undefeated champion remains one of the most respected minds in mixed martial arts, and his presence sends a clear message. Team Makhachev is treating this fight with maximum seriousness. Many fans expected Islam to continue dominating after his incredible run at lightweight, but moving up in weight presents an entirely different challenge. Ian Garry is naturally larger, longer, and physically stronger than many of the opponents Islam has faced before. The size difference alone creates new questions that even the most dominant champions must answer.
Islam Makhachev. Dude goes up one weight class, goes up to 170. He was the 55-pound most dominant champion ever, most title defenses at 55 ever. Just dominates at 170. Like, every round. People are saying it's boring, but listen, man, it's boring if you're a casual. The fact that he was able to do it every round, it was a little frustrating because you wanted Jack to try to adjust, but he couldn't, man. Islam shut his game down right away.
Despite the challenge, early signs suggest Islam is completely locked in. Training footage, interviews, and reports from camp all point toward a focused champion who understands exactly what is at stake. For years, Islam has quietly built one of the most impressive winning streaks in UFC history. Now he stands on the edge of breaking records that once seemed untouchable. Yet while fans talk about records and accomplishments, Islam appears focused on something much simpler: winning the next fight. That mindset has defined his entire career. One of the most interesting aspects of this matchup is the way Islam views Ian Garry as a stylistic challenge. Unlike many fighters who follow predictable patterns, Garry brings movement, timing, and unusual striking rhythms that make preparation difficult. His ability to fight from range and create awkward exchanges has frustrated opponents throughout his rise in the welterweight division.
You know, we're coming to Philly. We got Islam Makhachev and Ian Garry, and you know we got a great summer slated. So I'm looking forward to it.
UFC 330 in Philadelphia. That feels like a big. Is that announced? Is that known or no? Is that something that we just learned? I don't know if.
Yeah, we're coming back. This is the first time we're back in Philly since like 2019, I think.
Islam himself has acknowledged that Garry presents unique problems. However, he has also suggested that preparing for elite wrestling and grappling is much harder than preparing for striking. According to Islam, fighters can improve certain aspects of their stand-up game relatively quickly, but world-class wrestling takes years to develop. That belief has become a central theme in Team Makhachev's confidence. They understand Garry's striking ability. They respect his movement and creativity. But they also believe that once the fight enters grappling exchanges, the balance shifts dramatically in Islam's favor. Javier Mendez has echoed those thoughts repeatedly. The longtime coach describes Ian Garry as a dangerous striker capable of changing a fight with a single strike. His length, timing, and unpredictability make him a difficult opponent to look good against. Yet Mendez remains convinced that Islam possesses advantages in areas Garry cannot fully neutralize. According to Mendez, Garry's takedown defense is respectable, but not strong enough to completely stop Islam's wrestling. That distinction is important. Stopping one takedown is difficult. Stopping 10 is something something entirely different. Throughout his career, Islam has shown an ability to chain wrestle, adapt positions, and continuously force opponents into uncomfortable situations. Even when initial takedown attempts fail, he rarely abandons the pressure. Instead, he keeps building opportunities until opponents eventually break.
What if they don't do Makhachev versus Garry? What if they hit us with a Kayla Harris and Amanda Nunes main event and we're right back where we left off and momentum slows down? We are keeping the ball rolling and we need to make sure of that, and this is a perfect way to make sure of that. Makhachev versus Garry. Ian Garry gets the title shot. I'm also going to go through a video in a second of his response to getting a title shot against Islam Makhachev. One of the corniest things you ever will see. He just can't help himself, but maybe, just maybe,
That's what makes fighters from the Nurmagomedov system so dangerous. They don't simply wrestle. They exhaust opponents physically, mentally, and emotionally. Former UFC champion Stephen Thompson recently explained this concept perfectly. He described fighters like Islam and Khabib as athletes who slowly take away an opponent's confidence. Every clinch exchange, every scramble, every takedown forces opponents to work harder than they want to. As the rounds progress, fatigue begins to accumulate. Then frustration appears. Then mistakes happen. By the later rounds, many opponents no longer look like themselves. This is why Thompson believes defeating Islam requires far more than technical skill. A fighter must possess elite cardio, exceptional recovery, and tremendous mental toughness. Without those qualities, surviving 5 rounds against someone like Makhachev becomes nearly impossible.
Ian is the right guy to get in there versus Islam. I think that, he's done enough. He has a head-to-head win over Carlos Prates, who in my mind is one step above Michael Morales, just as far as strength of schedule goes. But Ian Garry, aside from the Shavkat fight, has looked perfect, and he hasn't had an easy road to get to the top of the division. So this fight not only reminds me of Conor versus Khabib for the geographical, location of where both of these people come from. I think there is a real beef and a feud between Ireland and Dagestan as far as MMA is concerned. And this one is definitely an interesting fight because we know Islam's the most complete fighter in the UFC, but Ian Garry's game planning and fight IQ takes him up a notch as far as difficulty to beat. He's got a frame that's very hard to close distance on, and not only that, his ability to maintain range is really good. He stays behind a jab. He's very intelligent, sort of like Cyril Gane, where he engages on his own terms. If he doesn't like what he sees, he tries to back up and get a fresh start. So Ian Garry is actually probably the toughest opponent for Islam Makhachev at 170 right now, but I think Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates could wind up bringing us the next toughest opponent for sure if those two get put on the 330 card, and I really hope they do.
Of course, Ian Garry believes he has the tools necessary to change that narrative. The Irish contender has steadily developed into one of the most talked about fighters in the sport. His confidence, striking ability, and willingness to embrace difficult challenges have earned him supporters around the world. Some analysts even believe Garry has a legitimate path to victory. Former UFC title challenger Chael Sonnen raised an interesting question when discussing the fight. While many people automatically assume Islam wins because of his wrestling, Sonnen challenged fans to explain exactly how Garry could pull off the upset. The answer isn't simple. If Garry hopes to become champion, he will likely need to keep the fight standing for extended periods. He must use his movement, manage distance carefully, and force Islam into striking exchanges where his own skills can shine. That's easier said than done. Very few fighters have successfully implemented that strategy against elite wrestlers for 5 full rounds. Still, MMA remains unpredictable. One perfectly timed strike can change everything. One mistake can alter an entire championship fight. That's why even Team Makhachev acknowledges Garry's danger on the feet. They understand that championship-level striking cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, another name has quietly entered the picture. Carlos Prates has revealed that he is preparing as a potential backup fighter for UFC 330. While nobody expects a replacement to be needed, Prates is making sure he remains ready in case circumstances change. His approach highlights an important reality about modern MMA. Opportunities can appear without warning. Fighters who stay ready often find themselves receiving life-changing chances. For now, however, the focus remains firmly on Islam versus Garry. The matchup has also attracted attention from one of the greatest fighters of all time, Georges St. Pierre. The former 2-division UFC champion views the fight as a classic striker versus grappler battle. According to GSP, the outcome may ultimately depend on where the fight spends the majority of its time. If Garry keeps the fight standing, his chances increase significantly. If Islam consistently secures takedowns, the advantage shifts heavily toward the champion. That simple dynamic explains why anticipation anticipation continues to grow. Fans understand exactly what both fighters want to do. The mystery lies in discovering who can impose their game plan. Beyond UFC 330, discussions around Islam's long-term legacy continue to intensify. The champion recently spoke about his desire to eventually retire while still holding a title. It's a goal shared by many great champions but achieved by very few. Walking away at the top is one of the hardest decisions in combat sports. Most fighters continue competing because the challenge, the spotlight, and the competition become part of who they are. Islam appears aware of that reality, yet he also seems determined to protect the legacy he has worked so hard to build. For now, retirement remains a distant conversation. His attention is fixed entirely on Ian Garry, and perhaps that's exactly why Team Makhachev continues to succeed. While fans debate future opponents, records, and legacy discussions, Islam remains focused on the next challenge in front of him. That approach has carried him to championship success. It has helped him extend one of the longest winning streaks in UFC history, and it may ultimately help him overcome another dangerous challenger at UFC 330. The pressure surrounding this fight is enormous. Ian Garry sees an opportunity to become one of the biggest stars in MMA. Islam sees another chance to strengthen his position among the sport's all-time greats. Khabib's return to camp only adds another layer of intrigue. His presence serves as a reminder of the championship standard that has defined Team Makhachev for years. Nothing is being left to chance. Every training session matters. Every adjustment matters. Every detail matters. Because once the Octagon door closes, preparation becomes reality. For Ian Garry, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. For Islam Makhachev, it is another step toward immortality. The records, predictions, and opinions will soon disappear. What remains will be two elite fighters standing across from each other, each determined to prove they belong at the top of the sport. And when UFC 330 finally arrives, the entire MMA world will be watching to see whether Ian Garry can shock the champion or whether Islam Makhachev continues his march toward history.